You could feel the tension before a single word was even spoken. The kind of tension that doesn't come from politics, but from something deeper, something about to break. Because this wasn't just another hearing. This was a moment where one man walked in with receipts, and another had nowhere left to hide. And what happened next didn't just expose contradictions, it exposed cracks in a system millions of people still trust. The room was quiet, but not calm. There's a difference. Everyone knew something was coming. They just didn't know how far it would go. When Adam Schiff began speaking, it didn't feel like a typical exchange.
Did you ever take any action to terminate or discipline an FBI agent or employee, in whole or in part, as retribution for being part of an investigation of Donald Trump or January 6th?
No.
You also committed, you assured Senator Blumenthal, all FBI employees will be protected against political retribution. So you're testifying today that you played no role in the firing of even a single FBI agent for political retribution.
None for political retribution.
And if any FBI agent said you did, they would be lying. Is that your testimony?
I'm only speaking to my actions. Everybody is allowed to make their allegations.
Oh, no, these are allegations against you.
And
so, Mr. Patel, if FBI, senior FBI agents or employees said that you were firing them for political retribution reasons because of the cases they were assigned, you're saying they would be lying. Is that
anyone that was terminated at the FBI was done so for failing to meet the standards, uphold their constitutional oath, and effectuate the mission.
Well, by meet the standards, are you talking about meet the standards of protecting the president under any circumstance?
No.
You also guaranteed Senator Blumenthal that every FBI employee will be held to the same, absolute same standard. No one will be terminated for case assignments. Are you testifying today that you never terminated anyone at the FBI, in whole or in part, because of a prior case assignment?
No one at the FBI is terminated for case assignments alone.
Well, I'm asking about you, Mr. Patel. Did you, in whole or in part, terminate anyone at the FBI because they worked on the Trump investigation or because they worked on January 6th?
No one at the FBI has been terminated for case assignments alone.
Okay, you're saying alone. Does that mean they were terminated in part because they were assigned to a January 6th case or assigned to the Mar-a-Lago case? You're being very precise here, Mr. Patel. You're saying alone. That means they were fired in part because they were assigned those cases. Is that your testimony?
Absolutely not. But if you want to keep putting words in my mouth,
then let me ask you, let's strip away the word alone. Did you terminate or participate in any discipline of any FBI employee, in whole or in part, because of their work on an investigation of Donald Trump or January 6th? Yes or no?
Any terminations at the FBI by employees.
No, I'm asking you a very specific question.
And I'm going to answer the question, but you don't like the answer because it's the truth and it guts
want
your
an answer to my
narrative.
question. I don't want an answer to someone else's question. So let me just be precise, and I ask for a yes or no answer. Did you ever terminate or discipline an FBI employee, in whole or in part, because they had been assigned or worked on an investigation of Donald Trump or January 6th?
FBI employees are only terminated if they fail to uphold their oaths of office and duty.
You're not answering my question.
I don't have to answer your question yes or no because you're setting up a trap so you can have a media narrative.
I'm not setting up a trap.
And I'm not giving it to you.
Unless it's true that you fired people.
People have been terminated at the FBI who failed to uphold the standards that the FBI requires them to uphold.
Did you tell anyone at the FBI that all FBI employees who they identified who had worked on cases against President Trump would be removed from their jobs? Did you tell that to someone at the FBI?
Say that I would remove people for case assignments?
That people that were identified as having worked on cases against President Trump would be removed from their jobs. Did you tell that to someone at the FBI?
People are not removed for case assignments.
Just answer my question. Did you tell that to someone?
People are not removed for case
assignments.
No,
you're not answering my question.
And I would never tell anyone.
Did you tell someone at the FBI that FBI employees identified as having worked on cases against President Trump would be removed from their jobs? Yes or no, did you tell someone that?
I would never tell anyone at the FBI that they're being removed for basically their case assignments.
Okay, so anyone who had said that would be lying. Is that your testimony?
Anyone can say whatever they want.
No, I know, but you're saying they were a liar.
I'm telling you what I said.
Because this is in the complaint against you, Mr. Patel. So you're saying Mr. Driscoll and others are liars.
I'm not going to address the complaint and the ongoing
Okay, well then let me ask you, have you ever told anyone at the FBI that the FBI tried to put the president in jail and he hasn't forgotten it, and that your job depended on the removal of agents who worked on cases against the president?
No.
Did you ever tell anyone that?
No.
Okay. Did you ever tell anyone that you knew these summary firings you were undertaking were illegal, likely illegal, and that you would be sued and later deposed? Did you ever tell anyone that?
No firings at the FBI or terminations were done for anything other than justified
Did you ever
cause.
tell anyone that, Mr.
No,
Patel? Why don't you
no
answer my question?
terminations at the FBI were ever done in my tenure for anything other than failing
Did you ever
to
tell
uphold
anyone
their
that,
oath of
Mr. Patel? You
office
willing to
or
answer the question?
The FBI.
I guess
I
you're
have
not willing to
answered
answer the
it.
question. So let me move on. Let me
Repeatedly.
move on to the Epstein files. You said you're the most transparent FBI director in history, so I'm going to put you to the test. In 2024, you were asked by Glenn Beck about Epstein's Black Book. And you said, he asked, who has Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book? And you said, Black Book, FBI. And he said, but who? That is, I mean theirs. And you said, oh, that's under the direct control of the director of the FBI. That's what you said. Was that true, Mr. Patel?
I'll rely on you quoting it accurately. I did that a couple
Was
of
it
years
true
ago.
what you represented to Mr. Beck and the president's supporters out there, or were you lying?
No,
Was it true that the Black Book, Epstein's Black Book, was in the possession of the FBI director?
The Black Book was in the possession of the FBI.
Okay, so now that you're the FBI director, you have possession of the Black Book, right?
That index has been released.
So you have Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book?
What is known as Jeffrey Epstein's Black Book has been released by us.
And you released it. And let me follow up on Senator Kennedy's question, because he asked you, and I'll be very precise here. You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself? And you said, himself. There's no credible information, none. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals. And Kennedy, the information we have, again, is limited. And Senator Kennedy said, the answer is no one. And you said, for the information we have. So is it your testimony today that in all the Epstein files, that Jeffrey Epstein trafficked no one to anyone but himself? Is that your testimony, Mr.
I never
Patel?
said Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic anyone else.
Did he traffic any young woman to someone other than himself? That was Mr. Kennedy's question,
And I
Senator Kennedy's
said
question.
the information that 3 administrations have had access to
I'm
have
asking
made
you-
determinations that there are no investigative leads that were credible to prosecute and investigate any others. I'm specifically
I'm asking
stating
you whether
we
it's
were
your
working on.
testimony today.
Well, you just read
that
it, and I said it
I'm-
10 minutes ago, so let the record reflect my
I
testimony.
just want to make sure there's no misunderstanding, because there are victims like Virginia Guifer who have testified otherwise, who have said otherwise, and you're telling the American people today that the Epstein list is a single name and it's Jeffrey Epstein. That's what we're to believe?
That's not what I'm saying. That's what you're saying, and
Well,
you can say whatever you
Let
want.
me ask you this. When Todd Blanche went to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, she said, but did I think these guys were coming for that? I really don't. If you met Epstein, there's no way that this cast of characters, of which it's extraordinary, and some are in your cabinet, who you value as your co-workers, and you know would be with him if he was a creep or because they wanted sexual favors. A man wants sexual favors, he will find that. They didn't have to come to Epstein for that. And the next question Todd Blanche, the president's former criminal defense lawyer, asked is not who in the cabinet, who are you referring to? His question is, so when's the last time you think you were with Mr. Epstein when he got a massage? So let me ask you, who are those cabinet members that Ghislaine Maxwell was referring to that, that were part of this cast of characters associated with Mr. Epstein? Who are they?
The Deputy Attorney General took the aggressive step that no one else did and interviewed Ms. Maxwell for
I'm
2
asking you,
days, and we released
who are
the
the cabinet
entirety
members?
of that
Who are the cabinet
transcript.
members?
I do not have that transcript in front of me. You're picking it piecemeal. The American public can read the entirety of that.
One last question, because you clearly won't tell us the cabinet members associated with Mr. Epstein. Let me ask you one last question. And that is, right after she gives this testimony in front of an FBI agent, among others, she's transferred to a minimum security prison not suitable for a sex offender like herself. Who made that decision and why?
The Bureau of Prisons.
The Bureau of Decisions made it in
Prisons.
The Bureau of Prisons decided on their own, without any consultation with Blanche or anyone else, that they were going to suddenly, after this interview, completely unrelated to this interview, completely unrelated to anything she said, move her to a prison not suitable for a sex offender. You want the American people to believe that? Do you think they're stupid?
No. I think the American people believe the truth, that I'm not in the weeds on the everyday movements of
you're
inmates.
not in the weeds?
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you. And we have countlessly proven you to be a liar in Russiagate, in January 6th. You are the biggest fraud to ever sit in the United States Senate. You are a disgrace to this institution and an utter coward.
I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised that you continue to lie from your perch and put on a show so you can go raise money for your charade. You are a political buffoon at best.
Well, you can take an internet troll.
Take it to the bank that the FBI is protecting this country and the state and citizens of California. We are bringing historic reform. Point of order. But all you care about is a child sex predator that was prosecuted by a prior administration, and the Obama Justice Department and the Biden Justice Department did squat. And what did President Trump do? Bring new charges courageously. And what have we done?
Chairman,
you said I'm the most transparent FBI director in history. 33,000 pages of information to you. I challenge you to say anything credibly to the truth. Go ahead and run to the cameras where you want to go now.
Both of you be quiet.
There was no warm-up, no slow build. He went straight to the point, laying out commitments that had been made under oath. Promises about fairness. Promises about transparency. Promises that now, suddenly, didn't sound so solid anymore. And before anyone could settle in, the first question hit. Simple. Direct. The kind of question that should take one word to answer. Yes or no. But that's not what happened. Instead of answering cleanly, Kash Patel did something subtle, but incredibly revealing. He added a word. Just one word. Alone. And that single word changed everything. Because it wasn't just an answer anymore, it was a shield. A way to technically respond without actually saying anything. Schiff noticed it immediately. He didn't interrupt, he didn't react emotionally. He leaned in. Because when someone starts playing with language like that, it usually means there's something they don't want to say directly. And the more Patel repeated it, the clearer it became. This wasn't confusion. This was strategy. The exchange started to feel less like a hearing and more like a chess match. Every move calculated. Every word chosen carefully. Schiff kept pressing, tightening the question, stripping away the wiggle room. He removed the qualifiers, simplified the structure, forced the answer back into that same yes or no box. But Patel wouldn't go there. He kept circling, reframing, redirecting. And to anyone watching closely, it became obvious why. Because once you answer directly, there's no taking it back. And that's exactly what he was avoiding. But this wasn't just about wordplay. Schiff wasn't guessing. He wasn't speculating. He had something in front of him. Documents, complaints, statements that had already been made, and he began referencing them piece by piece, not dramatically, but methodically. That's what made it more intense. There was no shouting, no theatrics, just a steady stream of information that painted a picture Patel couldn't easily dismiss. And instead of confronting it head-on, Patel shifted again, not to denial, but to distance, saying people can make allegations, saying he's only speaking for his actions. It sounded controlled, but it also sounded like someone walking a very careful line. And then came the moment where everything started to tighten. Schiff brought up internal complaints. Not rumors. Not speculation. Formal complaints. the kind that don't just disappear. And instead of directly addressing whether those claims were false, Patel refused to engage with them at all. Not because he couldn't, but because acknowledging them in that setting could carry consequences. That hesitation spoke louder than any answer could have. Because when someone won't deny something clearly, people start asking why. But Schiff wasn't done. In fact, he was just getting started. Because next, he pulled something even more difficult to explain. Patel's own words. A previous interview. A public statement made confidently, without hesitation, in front of a completely different audience. Back then, there were no constraints, no legal risks, just bold claims about transparency and control, specifically about the Epstein files, about who had them, about what they contained. And now, sitting under oath, those same claims didn't sound quite the same. When Schiff quoted him directly, you could see the shift. The tone changed. The confidence tightened. Because this wasn't interpretation anymore. It was a direct comparison. What was said before versus what was being said now. And suddenly, the clarity disappeared. Instead of certainty, there was caution. Instead of ownership, there was distance. The information was now limited. The conclusions were now based on what others had already determined. It wasn't a full contradiction, but it was enough to raise questions. And once those questions are out there, they don't go away easily. The discussion moved deeper into the Epstein case, and that's where things became even more complicated. Because this isn't just any case. It's one of the most talked about, most speculated about situations in recent history. And people have been waiting for answers for years. Schiff pushed on that point, asking directly whether anyone else had been involved, whether there were names, whether the narrative people had been told was actually complete. And again, Patel didn't give a clean answer. He leaned on what had been determined before, on what could be proven, on what was considered credible. But that didn't satisfy the question. Because there are victims who have said otherwise. There are statements that don't align with that version of events. And when those contradictions exist, people want clarity. They don't want carefully worded responses. They want direct answers. And the more those answers are avoided, the more it feels like something is being held back. Whether that's true or not almost becomes secondary. Because perception matters. And in that moment, the perception wasn't helping. Then came the detail that shifted the entire tone of the room. The mention of Ghislaine Maxwell's transfer. The timing of it. The circumstances around it. Schiff laid it out clearly. After a key interview, after sensitive information was discussed, suddenly, there's a change. A move that didn't seem to match the situation. And he asked the obvious question. Who made that decision? Why did it happen? And this time, Patel gave a direct answer. The Bureau of Prisons. Clean. Simple. But not complete. Because that answer raised more questions than it resolved. Was there no coordination? No communication? No awareness? In a case this high profile, involving individuals this significant, was that decision really made in isolation? Schiff didn't buy it. And he made that clear, not through emotion, but through repetition. Asking again, pushing again, trying to close the gaps in the explanation. And that's when everything changed, because instead of answering, Patel snapped. Not slightly, not subtly, completely. The controlled tone disappeared. The careful wording vanished. And what replaced it wasn't strategy, it was emotion. Direct insults. Personal attacks. Words that don't belong in a setting like that. Calling a sitting senator names. Questioning credibility. Turning the exchange from professional to personal in seconds. And in that moment, it didn't feel like a defense anymore. It felt like a reaction, and reactions like that don't come out of nowhere. They come from pressure, from frustration, from being pushed into a corner with no easy way out. Because if there was a clear explanation, it would have been given. If there was a simple answer, it would have been said. But instead, what came out was anger. And for a lot of people watching, that moment said more than anything else that had been discussed. Because when someone loses control like that, it changes how everything before it is viewed. The wordplay, the hesitation, the refusal to answer directly. It all starts to look different. Not just cautious, but evasive. Not just careful, but defensive. And whether that interpretation is fair or not, it's the one that sticks. As the exchange came to an end, the energy in the room felt completely different from how it started. What began as a structured hearing had turned into something else entirely. Something messier. Something harder to ignore. And the biggest question wasn't about any single answer. It was about the pattern. The way questions were handled. The way information was framed. The way pressure was met with deflection and then with anger, because at the end of the day, this wasn't just about one hearing. It wasn't just about one case. It was about trust, about whether the people in charge are being fully transparent or just saying the right things at the right time. And moments like this don't give people confidence. They make them wonder what else isn't being said, what else is being framed carefully, what else might look different under closer inspection. And that's why this moment matters. Not because of the headlines it will generate, not because of the clips that will go viral, but because of what it reveals underneath all of it. The tension between image and reality, between what's promised and what's actually delivered, and whether those two things still match. So now the question isn't what happened in that room. You've seen that. The real question is what it means going forward. Was this transparency under pressure, or was it something else entirely? And more importantly, what do you think was really going on behind those answers? If you made it this far, drop your thoughts below. I want to know how you see it. And if you're into breakdowns like this where we go beyond the surface and actually connect the dots, make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This is just the beginning.